Who? My destiny, so hear me speak when I'm on the scene. Thank you, Lord, you set me free. I said thank you. Can you guide me? Can you take the lead? I'm on fire, can you feel the heat? I see Jay, he just tryna preach. I said thank you, God, you set me free. I said now I feel my life complete. Made my love for you really deep. I said thank you, God, you set me free. Look, reading Luke chapter 9, that verse 1. Jesus called the disciples up, and he gave them what's up. Power and authority over all the devils. I used to be a rebel on another level, smashing on the gas, pressing on the pedal. I was really tripping, I was chasing the narrow. Feeling presidential, thinking I was settled.
Yeah.
We up. We're ready? All right,
Ready.
give it up. I feel all awesome. You know, today we have celebrities here. Oh my goodness. We have been absolutely going crazy about tonight. I was so excited about this topic because you guys know that that's my thing, children. And so I have been just in that place today, just wanting to talk to, hold it up. Like this. Just wanting to make sure that we get the message out to parents concerning this topic. And the guests, the panel is just awesome. It is the perfect panel, the perfect people to really minister or speak to the heart of parents, especially young parents who have young children. We call them tweens and teenagers. The tweens are the in-between, the youth, the young kids, and they're right in between the teenagers. So the tweens would be, I guess, what, 11 and 12?
11 to 13.
11 to 13. Well, 13 would be a teenager,
Well, 10
right?
to 12.
10 to 12. And then we have the 13
to
which would start the teenage years. But I'm telling you, this affects even the tweens, even the 10 to 12-year-old children, as we talked about, earlier, how this topic tonight we're dealing with, Mama, you need to know, because there's some things that you, in actuality, need to know. And most often we don't know, as parents, what our children are doing. So no one is exempt from drug, alcoholism, the whole 9 yards. So we are talking about the 20.7 million middle school children that utilize alcohol and drugs as well, right?
Right.
And so what better panel of people to have than a teenager?
Yes.
You're not a tween anymore, huh, Jay?
Oh, no, I'm 17 now.
How old are you, Jay?
I'm 17.
He's 17. He's almost a young adult. And then we have Officer Fleming, and he'll get a chance. Everybody will get a chance to introduce themselves. And we have with us tonight an upcoming rising star. So I'm gonna get autographs and all that stuff so I can sell all that stuff on eBay when he makes it real big. So we have our Christian rapper in the house, Icy John. So give it up for our panel, you guys. So awesome. So as you know, Lori is not here on tonight. Lori is one of our hosts, and she's not here on tonight. So we've moved seats. You all know my Isha is always sitting on this side. We've moved seats. We'll be back in position on next week. So this is kind of odd to me to be looking across over. I call her at my Isha. And so she'll begin by introducing herself and, telling a little bit about her children, because she has children. And then we'll just go around. It'll be Jay, and then Officer Fleming, and then we'll come to Icy John, and then we'll get right into our discussion. So,
Well, hello, guys. I am Maisha Tate. I'm the mom of two wonderful, brilliant beauties, Ashlyn Pruitt and Peyton McKenzie Elise. And I understand this topic quite well. Peyton is 9, so she's right about that age where she's entering into middle school, and she has all these questions. And believe it or not, they're talking about liking boys, and kids have all these things that I know, right? It is so early. I feel the same way. It's way early. But that's why we have to have these conversations now, because in her class, this boy like her, and she went as far to tell me last year about how it was funny. She said, "Mama, this girl in my class, I know she lying." She said, but she feel the need to her words exactly. She said she feel the need to lie because she's not okay with the truth.
Wow.
And she was 8. So let's have these conversations, parents, because it's beginning earlier and earlier than you think. And if you never have these kind of conversations with your children, you won't know. I wouldn't have known that 8-year-olds are having that depth, that level of depth of conversation. And then my 19-year-old, well, she'll be 19 in April. She went through this. When she was in middle school, she battled depression. 11 years old, there she was telling her friends that she was going to take her life. And how I found out was a parent called me to say, your daughter told my daughter that she was going to kill herself. Now, here I was, having conversations with my child, thinking everything is okay. And there she is in her other room, down and depressed because she was battling things in her mind. She didn't turn to alcoholism, but it came close. So it's like we have to have these conversations now because the issues are real and they're starting younger and younger where they're plaguing our children. And if we don't do anything, then we leave them wide open to the attacks and the plot of the enemy to steal their lives. So
Very good.
I'm excited about this.
Jay, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Jaden. I'm 17. I'm a senior in high school, about
Woo!
to graduate.
Go,
And
go.
I'm excited to like graduate and stuff, but alcohol and like stuff like this does affect teenagers.
Officer Fleming?
Joe Fleming with Eastern Police Department. I'm honored to be here. Guest among these esteemed panel. And I'm going to share information about the ramifications of teen drinking and drinking and driving and things associated with breaking the law and as it relates to alcoholism and drugs.
Good deal. ICJ?
Finally got my name right. My name is John. I go by ICJ. I'm a gospel rapper. I'm 24 years old. I got this song called Set Me Free that I wrote a while back, but I remade it. And that song, it really means a lot to me because I remember I was listening to that beat for like 2 weeks straight, and I was telling God, like, I really like this beat. Can you give me some lyrics to this song? Wow. I usually make a song in like 30 minutes to an hour, like real fast. And this song took me 2 weeks.
Wow. Wow.
And then he was like, you really want to make a song to the beat? Get on your knees and pray and open up that Bible. So I was like, okay. I was looking at him like, okay, whatever,
Wow.
But that's exactly what I did. 30 minutes later, I wrote that song real fast.
Wow. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the statistics as it relates to drinking and even drug usage amongst tweens and teenagers. So 20.7 million middle school children have experienced drinking alcohol. 20.7. So that's between the ages of 10 to 12, not the teenagers, but the middle school children. It statistically states that 20.7 million middle school children have experienced drinking alcohol. 35% of high school students drank some amount of alcohol within the past 30 days, just within the past 30 days. 68% of 12th graders have tried alcohol at least once. And 8.7 million people between the ages of 12 and 20 have consumed alcohol in just the past month. All alcohol consumed was consumed by those between the age, most alcohol consumed would be noted to be consumed by children as well as young adults between the ages of 12 and 20. So alcohol is on the, I don't know, I never experienced drinking alcohol at 10 years old or 11 or 12. Yeah. We didn't even have it in the home, so a lot of people have it in the home, and I think that's how it becomes accessible to children. So there's a lot of alcohol usage as well as drug usage, and I'm trying to figure out where does a 10 and 11 and 12-year-old get drugs from or alcohol, most often from the home. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So Jay, you're out, and I call him Jay. His name is Jaden. I named him. But anyway, Jay, talk to us about what is really going on. I mean, what is going on? Why do young people, tweens, and teenagers feel the need to drink and do drugs at such a young age?
I feel like what they see is what they do. So like if the parents are drinking or doing drugs and they think that the kids are not around watching, the kids are always going to see what you're doing. So if you do it or have drugs or alcohol in the house, they're obviously gonna try it because they want to try new things, and they're just gonna like follow after their parents because they always want to follow in the parents' footsteps.
Okay. Do you think it's a lot, could be peer pressure as well?
Yes, a lot of it does have to do with peer pressure.
Okay, okay. Because sometimes it's parents, they don't engage in drinking or doing drugs or whatever, but they see it in their children. So I'm thinking a lot of times that it could be also peer pressure, that I want to be a part of a crowd or I want to be popular and I'm just doing what I see my friends do. Does that happen as well?
Yes, that happens a lot, especially like when you get into high school and stuff like that. Like you're gonna start going to parties and stuff like that, and then the parties, that's like where the most peer pressure happens.
Wow, wow. And that's for all around, right?
Yeah.
Drugs, alcohol, the whole 9 yards. Even if sometimes you don't want to engage, I guess the peer pressure states that I'm popular or I'm a part, right?
Yeah.
So you really got to almost make, just be in a place to make a decision not to. You know, like Nike say, just do it,
Just
don't do it.
do it.
Okay, so I want to kind of talk to ICJ because ICJ has such a testimonial, and that's where his songs come from, especially the song Set Me Free and the last song that he'll end with. So tell us, because when I talk to you, and I'm like, oh, you'll be good for the show, blah, blah, blah. And so we talked about your history. And so speak to the young people and let them know exactly what can happen to them if they engage in particular behaviors.
Well, that song that I got, Drinking and Driving, it's a really good song. From the first verse, I'm talking about how this kid is drinking and driving, and he doesn't listen to his parents, right? So he grabs the car, he's drinking. First thing that happens, he ends up in jail. Wow. The second time, I don't know if he comes out on bond or not, he's just out for some reason. He grabs the car again, and this time he crashes.
Jeez.
So there's two things that can happen. You can either go to jail or you can crash and die.
Wow, wow. Okay, so, and you told me about your drug usage and what you were addicted to, and that is, it's common right about now, the synthetic marijuana, which is extremely common amongst young people. And so speak to the parents, mama, because this is about mama, you need to know, because as a mother, most often we don't know. We just think the child is just acting a nut and cutting up, not listening, being rebellious. The child is high as two kites. So just kind of speak to the parents of what they need to look for and what in the world is synthetic weed.
Synthetic marijuana is something that was really taking over my body, really. And I was selling everything that I had just to get a possession of it. I was really losing my mind on it. I was crashing my cars, losing my jobs. I was just broke all the time. And I don't know, I ain't gonna lie, I felt like I needed it to function. I couldn't either write, perform, or write a song without that synthetic. It's embarrassing to me, to be honest, to be talking about it.
That's okay. I mean, you're free now, right?
Yes.
So, but what are some of the signs of synthetic marijuana? How would a parent know if their child is engaging in that particular drug usage?
Well, to me, I was never home.
Okay.
I was always gone on the road, just selling my stuff.
Jesus. Okay. So just isolation. That could be a word
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
can use. How young people will isolate themselves. What about outbursts? Does this thing, the synthetic marijuana, cause one to become aggressive and
Yes.
have outbursts?
Yeah, you get mad all the time. When you don't have it, you feel like you need it really bad. You're always just like, you need it. You feel like, I can't say it's like crack, but it's like, you really need it. If you don't have it, you get mad, you get aggressive. I'm telling you, because I've been there.
Jeez. Okay, let's go to, that breaks my heart. That breaks my heart. But Officer Sergeant Fleming, you see that all the time, right? You see the can you speak to us about what do we look for as parents? Because this stuff is common now.
Yes, ma'am, it is common. Just to break it down, the synthetic marijuana is something you may run across in your child's bedroom and not even know it.
Wow.
Some of it may look traditionally like, regular marijuana. It's like a ground up vegetation type thing. It may even appear like a average potpourri, like you would
Wow.
have, but it's generally ground up. Some of it has different scents. It won't come across like a scent of marijuana. And what it is composed of is just various vegetations that are ground up into like a grassy, kind of marijuana appearing substance. And it's sprayed with a couple of different chemicals.
Jeez.
And these chemicals are, several of them are illegal. And the way the police are able to distinguish if well, they call it on the street Kush.
Right.
Synthetic marijuana, the
Kush.
street name is called Kush. And it's generally derived, like I said, of some type of vegetation that's ground up. And it's sprayed with different chemicals. And some of these chemicals are controlled substances,
Gotcha.
which will, after testing and identifying what chemical is in that batch of synthetic marijuana, could lead to legal problems for you. You could be arrested. But generally, a lot of those chemicals are things that they use in commercial applications for agriculture or different things like that. And a lot of them are brain altering, mind altering
Gotcha.
Type of drugs. You will experience some type of euphoria, that high feeling like you would on any illicit drug, but the damage it does is a lot more damaging than some illegal drugs.
Gotcha.
So, but that's it. Parents, my advice would be to do some inspections. I mean, I'm from the old school.
I go in rooms.
Mama,
Go in the room.
Mama knew.
used to come into your
Come into your room,
bedroom.
yes.
And I mean, I know in some homes, my children today, they're older, but, we weren't allowed to close the doors and things like that. Now, I see parents knocking on the room door asking permission to go in. So my mom used to be like, this is my house. I think it is. And there better not be no doors closed unless I do.
My mom still be.
Yeah,
knocking
on
on
a
there.
serious note, but, stay engaged with your children. Marijuana, whether the real or the synthetic, are equally damaging, can, mess up grades, attention, and all of that. So I would say just stay in touch with your kids. Don't be your kid's friend.
Oh, my
But,
goodness.
be a parent,
Okay.
but be engaging, ask the questions. How was school today? And then you'll know when you start seeing those slight deviations from what your child's norm are. A lot of parents work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, a lot of single parent, both male and female.
Of course.
But, you got to stay engaged,
Connected.
social media, stay connected. And just like Jay said, there are a lot of peer pressures out there. I mean, things probably haven't changed much from when we were all in
Of
high
course.
school, but just keeping a tab on your child, who they associate with, and not just they specific friends. You got to check into those friends' parents'
I
background.
was just about to say
'cause
that.
just like you say, alcohol comes from somebody's home. It may not be in your household,
somebody.
but it might be in your friend, your child's friend's
Right,
household.
right.
So, but I definitely think that's where it starts at, But, that's pretty much my take on synthetic marijuana and the ramifications. And I mean, like I said, if some of those illegal chemicals that they spray on it come back, they could be felonies involved.
Wow.
Kid can,
So tell us about that. If felonies are involved and it's a 13-year-old, what happens?
right. There are some, fortunately now, in Harris County, I know with the Suburbans, Fort Bend and Brazoria County and some of the other, Montgomery County, have different little policies, but I'm more familiar with with Harris County. We have some diversion programs for youth that, if it's a first offense, and even with adults, a lot of times your first time, the courts and the laws will be a little lenient.
Gotcha.
But, you might get a slap on the wrist, maybe some probation, or even, something as easy as community service
Gotcha.
and a fine. That's mildly, but of course, the second and subsequent times, those penalties are going to get a little stiffer.
Of course.
And, you may experience some jail time. And then with underage, with minors, parents are kind of, held to a certain,
Responsible.
kind of punitive
Yes.
thing where they
Wow.
may have to take classes and
Yes.
pay fines and things like that. So once you engage in that, it's not an easy road to get out of, So, even with parents, just because your kid do it don't mean you off the hook as a parent either,
Wow,
so, yeah.
wow. So, ICJ, you want to speak to that? Ultimately, what happened to you?
Me?
Tell the young people.
I I was driving. I was falling asleep on the wheel on that,
Come on now.
and I was just like, I caught 3 DWIs on that, but I beat 2. So, thank God. And then, but one of them they did get me for it.
So, does that considered a felony?
No,
It wasn't?
thank God, no.
No, thank God,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so is that like Joe, what would that be, Officer,
Yeah,
certain felony, like a,
first DWI is usually a Class B misdemeanor,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why, again, he may have been able or afforded an opportunity for one of those diversion programs,
Mm-hmm,
and fortunately, by the grace of God, the subsequent DWIs, he may have had some
that was the
good
grace
legal
of God.
representation that may have intervened.
Oh,
The
my
good
God.
Lord may have had his hand on him, and
Yes,
and
Lord.
and
But
helped
that
him
doesn't
get
happen
out
all
of
the
those-
time.
And no, ma'am, that's not always the case. It's just like he was saying, multiple DWIs, the penalties go up, and then if you get involved in an accident,
Oh, my goodness.
it's
Then one
a
time I
serious
caught
situation.
2 all at once. I was out on bond for one of them, and then I caught another one.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, and now, you can speak to this, Sergeant Fleming. They are really being very stiff on DWI. I have, as a matter of fact, something happened to us a couple of years ago where we know someone that was engaged in drinking and driving and doing drugs as well, and 2 people were murdered in the process because he was going the wrong way on the freeway. And so 2 people lost their lives, and then one person was, had some issues after the fact. And so they're really, I know now they're giving 60 years for accidents like that, because we have a certain responsibility to the public, to others, it's been like 2 weeks ago when someone got in a car and a child died, lost their life. So we have a responsibility not to drug and drink and drive, because it's not just about you. You can put the other people's lives in danger, right? So what kind of penalties are in place for people that ultimately cause an accident when they're drinking and driving, be it a young person, 17, 18, 16, or an older person?
Yes, ma'am. The lesser side, you would probably be charged with a offense of manslaughter.
Jeez.
But normally it's murder.
Jeez.
Because a vehicle behind, if you're behind the wheel of a motor vehicle and you're under the influence of drugs, alcohol, that vehicle itself is a deadly weapon. It's just like a bullet, a knife, or any other kind of deadly weapon that you could use to injure, maim, or kill somebody.
Wow.
So you are behind the wheel of a 1,000-pound or more motor vehicle that is considered a deadly weapon.
Wow, wow.
But the crazy part about it is you don't even have to be driving. Like a person that's very close to me, like a brother, they actually pulled over. But the thing was, the keys were still in the ignition. So, you're sitting on the side of the road. The cops stop him. He's already stopped, but the cops pull over. And because you are intoxicated and you are still behind the wheel and your key's in ignition even though you're not moving, he still was charged with a DWI. He had to pay fines. And then the worst part, it altered his life because your license can be removed, even though it was a first offense, because of the nature of what could have
Right.
happened.
Right.
That was so many ramifications. That he was put on probation. So now you can't just go to work every day. Now you have to involve other people, and they get in your business because now your job has to know that you have a DWI and you have these things that have to be met. You have to see a probation officer now. Now your money is tapped because you have fines to pay. Not only are you paying the city, but you have to pay the probation office. And then on top of that, they put a breathalyzer on your car. So now your car is not just able to be used, and the machine can mess up your car. So his car got messed up because something they did when they was putting the breathalyzer on. So now you got to pay money to get your car fixed because the breathalyzer is damaging something because something was done wrong. So you have all these issues that started because you weren't wise enough to just say no, And
Go ahead, I was gonna read this. Middle school substance abuse and addiction in kids as young as 11 or 12 years old has increased across the U.S. In 2015, more than 8% of eighth graders reported using illicit drugs. Eighth graders, that is 13 years old. They just crossed over from tween to teen,
Yes.
young teen. Eighth graders. Okay, the commonly used drug amongst eighth graders. Now, we're not talking about high schoolers. This is middle school. Eighth graders are marijuana, which is the gateway drug. Everybody
Yes.
talks about marijuana being the gateway drug. Usually it starts with marijuana and it's going to end with something else. Inhalants. I didn't even know inhalants was still around.
Oh, yeah.
They still puffing on.
Yes.
What is that? Glue and paint?
Yes.
Lord have mercy.
And don't forget
Inhalants.
whiteout.
And whiteout? Oh my God.
Whiteout.
This, of course, the synthetic marijuana, the cough medicine. Now, where you know you have to get that out your mama's cabinet. You got to get that codeine out your mama's cabinet, right? The cough medication, tranquilizers. All of these are adult drugs. Hallucinogens, Adderall, and Adderall, of course, is for ADHD, hyperactivity. So some children actually use those drugs, and apparently, I guess, people sell them. Oxy,
Yes, actually called
Vicodin, cocaine, ecstasy, and Ritalin, which is also for ADHD or hyperactivity disorders or whatever. I cannot believe it. Officer Fleming, where do they get this stuff from? Seriously, in 8th grade, how do you get this? Because some of this stuff it's expensive. An Adderall pill is expensive, right? And Ritalin,
Yeah.
it's expensive. Where do you get that? What do you?
I'm like you. A lot of it comes out of your parents' medicine cabinet.
Oh,
At that age.
Exactly.
yeah.
But another thing is opioids
Oh, on the rise,
becoming
yes.
a big epidemic, and some of the we're all familiar with the cocaine and crack and marijuana, but opioids are becoming a major epidemic in this country, and I think a lot of it starts in our parents' medicine cabinet.
Wow.
Because, nowadays. We didn't have, social media and the internet when we were coming up.
Of course.
But now, the World Wide Web is at, our children's fingertips. They can get on their smartphones and, just take a picture
Yes.
Jeez.
and get,
They're dealing.
whatever the effects of whatever drugs in mom and dad's medicine cabinet and, take it.
Jeez.
And so,
Jeez.
but I think that's where it starts at that age group.
So, Jaden, in high school, right? In 12th grade, give it up. He's a senior. Tell us, honestly, what do you think parents should look at and look for? Because I know you're out there and you see a lot, and you're with young people, and of course they are experimenting with drug usage and drinking and all of that. What should we look for? Honestly, what should a parent look for when the child comes home and, everybody's not like your parent. How's your day? Do this, do that, kind of have supervision and guidance. Everybody is not straight in the face. So if you're not a person that's straight in the face, what should you be looking for with your children?
Honestly, you just really need to look at like the body language and like how your
Good deal.
child walks and just like moves in general. Like the sergeant was saying, like when you just have to like ask a person like how was your day or whatever like that. Just like know your person's routine and stuff like that. And like the ADHD pills, like how the kids are getting them, it's like I have ADHD myself. It's like I take the pills like to focus and stuff like that. But other kids could be like purchasing them and selling them to other people for money or whatever for like other gadgets and stuff. And the people that do not have ADHD, they just like take the pills and like they're just like they act a different way. It's like it's easy to tell.
Oh, wow. Wow. So whereas really with Adderall or Ritalin, it has a totally different effect on a person that needs it, versus a person that does not need it.
Exactly.
Because the ADHD or the medication, the Adderall, it kind of slows and brings your mind together, whereas everything is racy prior to that. But then you give it to someone who doesn't have the racy, and it has a different reaction, right? Mm-hmm. So do you know what kind of reaction? Because with you, I just wouldn't know because you're just a good kid, you know. And I'm not just saying that because he's my boo, but I'm saying that because he is. He's just a good kid. So I would know immediately if something was wrong with Jay, right? With Jaden, I would know that because I know his personality. But unfortunately, sometimes people just think a child is acting bad, or that's just what they're doing, or they're going through a spell, or whatever. And in actuality, it could be a crossover and transition from plain old marijuana to some synthetic marijuana. Am I right? Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
That's correct.
You do?
No,
Go ahead.
Ash, we talk a lot, and so in college, this is her freshman year, so it's just her second semester. So the kids are fresh out of high school, and they making all of these choices because they're out on their own,
Of course.
living on campus. And you hear her talking about these kids who sadly started in middle school, and she's like, there's a lot of pressure. They're like, just take a drink, because she's never had a drink. And she's like, well, no, that's just not my thing. And they're like, well, we've been doing it. And the sad part about it is a lot of them started with their parents. Of course, she goes to a predominantly white school. So I know because I had, friends growing up, that was something that's introduced early because their thing is, if you do it with us, we don't have to worry about you doing it somewhere else. And in this environment, we can protect you. But they're not thinking about down the road, you're not going to be at school with them. And now this thing that they actually don't like, because they actually tell her, we don't really like this, but we feel like we need to at this point because now it's become an addiction that the parent started unaware.
But I'm going to say this because that's not just in a culture. That's not culture sensitive. That is across the board. Because I have people that I know personally that want to allow their children, and they are in the African American community. So we're not going to talk about that. People are just doing some weird stuff. They allow them to drink at home and to smoke marijuana at home because that they figure that I'd rather them do it here
Yeah, that's the
than
thing.
do it out
Somewhere else.
in public. But most often do we know as parents that are not on board with what should be done is that it's never satisfied.
No.
Once they get involved with the marijuana, and that's okay, then they'll be looking for something else because you can't ever get as high as you can get high. It's always a higher high. What you say, ICJ?
It's like me. I can't do marijuana because I start off with that. Well, first, I start off with drinking. From drinking, I start smoking. From smoking, I start doing cocaine. Next thing you know, I'm doing synthetic.
Wow. So you just it's just
A chain reaction.
a chain
Progression.
reaction. So really not to get involved in it, even at 12, marijuana, because we used to think marijuana was very innocent, But the just of the matter is, most often if you ask someone, a young person that is addicted to drugs, where did it start? How did you start? What did you start with? It's always going to be with weed. We used to call it weed. Okay.
That's why I
They
started.
still
We just call it
weed.
way. All this, we got some way. Okay? That's how it was back in the day. So basically, it's going to start, and it's usually around the age of 12, right? So
I started at 14, I think.
14? Oh, you was a late bloomer.
Wow.
You was a late bloomer.
I was innocent.
Okay, so I'm going back to Sergeant Fleming. Tell us, what should we do? What can we do once the child get in trouble? Because sometimes it happens. And yeah, sometimes it happens. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to have an attorney, and they're going to be on as well, what to do when your children get in trouble. Because we don't know. We're trying to find attorneys. We're putting out mortgaging off the house, selling half of the cars, doing all of that because little Johnny done transition from inhalants and marijuana and then switched over to synthetic weed. And because he needs it, he broke into the neighbor's house. I'm serious, huh? This stuff happens. Broke into the neighbor's home, and here we are in the middle of a mess. What should they do? Should they mortgage that house?
Me personally, I would do whatever it took to keep my kid out of trouble.
See?
And, I mean, a lot of that starts off with, you know, like we've been sharing here tonight, with knowing your kids, spending time with them, knowing them. But, you know, for those rare occasions where, you know, a good kid, something just bad happens because of you just the wrong place, the wrong time, yeah, you know, I would spare no expense to save my child. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So having a good attorney, the best of my money would allow me to buy. And also being there, because, you know, if they get into trouble, at least if their parent is there holding their hand, going through every step of the way, you know, that shows something. It shows that maybe, you know, this was a bad situation, but maybe this is just, you know, a one-time thing.
Okay.
And that carries a lot of weight in the court system, and when you talking to the, you know, the district attorney's office and things like that, and, you know, getting, you know, spiritual guidance, getting counseling, and taking all these steps to say, hey, you know, this happened, but this is not going to be okay for my kid to continue, and I'm going to be involved. If it didn't have my attention before now,
It
you know,
has
it's got my attention
Yes.
now.
Wow.
So
Excellent.
that's how I feel about it.
Excellent, excellent. So let me ask you this, because you know, we think the boys in blue, you know, they have it in for little Johnny anyhow. So really, how would we get to an officer, a sergeant, or someone like you that really have a compassion toward young people, or, you know, someone that's motivated to make sure little Johnny don't get 30 years for something that he did. He made a bad choice, a bad mistake, and how do we get around it? Because we go into, and I'm being honest, we go into that place where, you know what, my kid is done for, because the odds are already stacked against him, you know, and it is what it is. What do we need to do? How do we educate ourselves and our children to make sure that it doesn't get to a place where it escalates and my child is dead center in some place, and now he's facing time in prison? I don't want my kid to go to prison.
Yes, ma'am. And I think most law enforcement agencies have some kind of youth officers that cater to the youth. They're
Listen, y'all.
either in the school systems or they're in the Boys and Girls Clubs. And you can always ask, you know, if you think you got an issue with your child or something going on in your neighborhood, and it's just speaking from an HPD, Houston Police perspective, you know, we're always trying to engage the community, because we
Good deal.
believe if we can touch a young person early enough in their life, then they won't be a problem later on in their life. And you know, and I, you know, it kind of just does my heart bad when I'm walking in the grocery store and I happen to have my uniform on, and a parent say, "Hey, if you be bad, you know, that man right there is gonna put you in jail."
Oh,
and I
don't do
don't know,
that.
I don't know any officer. You know, we don't, you know, take on this profession or go through the academies and all the
Of
training
course.
that we go through with that mindset. I bet if you polled any officer in this community and you asked them, well, why did you become a police officer? You know, resoundingly, you would get the same answer of, I wanted to serve. I wanted to, you know, take care of my community. And I think that's just our idealism across the board. You don't put this uniform on and do the things that we have to do with the attitude, I'm going out here to put people in jail.
Of course.
You know, you want to take care of, you know,
concern.
people that are getting done wrong, or injustice,
Of
you know,
course.
people that are, you know, doing these bad things. We want to take care of those people by putting them in jail, or at least
Of course.
separating them until they can get themselves together. And then, you know, if they got themselves together, they come back and be a productive member of the community, and that's it. But, you know, law enforcement officers, we're here to serve, you know, and I think that's our idea, and I think that's why most of us take on this profession. It's not to, you know, beat down people or look for little Johnny. Now, you know, I know there are those bad folks, don't get me wrong.
And everything,
You know,
and
everybody's
everywhere, and
ideas
everything.
get a
Right,
little
right,
twisted,
right.
but generally it's because of, you know, some of them have some issues.
Of
So maybe
course.
they can take, but, you know, resoundingly, the vast majority, don't, you know, listen to everything you see on
course.
TV.
Yes.
Of
You know,
course.
most officers, and, you know, we come in a
course.
rainbow and an assortment of colors and backgrounds and family stuff. But, you know, we just want to take care of our communities. We live in the community. So
Yes.
it's not that we trying to beat down anybody, or we trying to pick out segregate anybody and over enforce laws on any one particular group. It's just that, you know, sometimes you're in an area of town to where that particular type of crime is prevalent, you know, and it just looks that way until you dig a little deeper. So,
I call it the 1%ers. You know, you got the 1% of a particular culture, police or whatever, that makes it bad for everybody. And we have a business, so we have the 1%ers. Things happen, of course, in childcare even, and you got the 1%ers that do something extreme, and it makes it bad. 1% of a restaurant. You know, you got 50 million Chick-fil-A, and you go to one, and it's filthy, and nobody wants to, everybody says Chick-fil-A is dirty, and blah, blah, blah. That kind of foolishness, you know, where you cannot put everybody into one basket, what I would call it. You know, I'm not going to say all law enforcement, they're rotten and they want to do this. And no, I definitely pray for all of the police officers, because when something happens, I'm calling the popo. Okay, we just going to keep that real. So I'm the popo's friend. Okay, it is what it is, because if something, we can talk all we want to, but when something happens, the first people we're going to call is going to be the police to come and protect and serve us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
I would say, when I was listening to you speak, I would say that you guys are about creating a culture of care. But most people don't have that mindset because of what's painted on the TV screens and in the movies, and even, you know, what's perpetuated in social media. So I think we have a responsibility to, you know, touch the minds of children and young adults and even parents, and let them know, you know, they're here because they care, not because they want to hurt you. And even the laws that are in place are supposed to be for protection, you know? They're supposed to be to keep us safe. So when we get back to that and we start, you know, acting from that place, and you said something, you said that even in the place where the things are prevalent, if you dig a little deeper, it normally is from a lack of care that a lot of things started. So I would say to parents, first off, you got to care. And you can't say you care, you have to show you care. It's not enough to say I love you, but I beat you, I call you stupid, I say you're dumb, I take my frustrations in life out on you, and then I expect you to be a model child and a model citizen. No, we as parents have to take a responsibility to care. And when we care, to me, that's the first line of defense. So we don't have to meet you on the streets or in a courtroom for a reason to say, you know, this happened. Well, who cared? If somebody cared, to me, that's the first start of prevention.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Jay, you guys talk to us. When do you graduate?
Oh, I graduate this year, to be honest.
What? Go for it, go for it, go for it. And you're going to college, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when you get to college, you're gonna make sure you make good choices, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because, you know, we're really, we don't want to have to do anything to you.
It's gonna do great.
We'll have family members arrest you. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, because you have the opportunity to make bad choices now. You know, so I want you to speak to young people. You have an opportunity to make bad choices, and you have an opportunity to make good choices. Good choices always lead you down to a good place, and bad choices ultimately lead you to a bad place. You know, so you have the pick to have a good, better job, because once you get a felony on your record for certain things, you can't take the good jobs. You have to, you know, there's places that you can't even live in apartments if you have felonies on your record. So it always puts you in a place of just being almost like handicapped to do those things that you need to do to make your destiny great. And so even your friends, you know, I think peer pressure should be the opposite. We should pressure our peers to do good, to do well, to be the best. And so we depend on young men like you, and even young women that's in your circle, to make sure that we put the opposite of what we call peer pressure, what we look as peer pressure. What you think?
Like she said, us as growing up, we need to think about our futures and not just like as of now. Because like, do you want a good job like when you're older? Do you want to succeed in life? Do you want to be the next NFL star? Do you want to be in the NBA? If you want to do those things, you can't mess up now. You have to keep pushing and striving for your goals.
I see.
You talking about choices, right? No, you're talking about choices. I want to bring something up. I remember I was speaking to God one time, and then I remember him specifically telling me this. He said, "The choice is yours."
Wow.
He said,
That's
"It's
good.
your choice to go to the left or to the right. You know, the left is the wrong road, the dead end, and the right one is going to be the successful side. But the choice is yours."
Wow, that's awesome. Excellent. Yeah, the choice is yours. The choice, we all have a choice. I mean, unfortunately, some of us make bad choices, but when you are engaged, I still go with what Sergeant Fleming said, to be engaging, to engage with your children. And even in that, I mean, it's sometimes the peer pressure. I know even with my son, he made some choices, you know, getting involved with young people that were not making good choices, and it was a lot of peer pressure. So, you know, now I'm so grateful that he's made some very good choices, but unfortunately, when you're in that place and you make bad choices sometimes follow you.
They do.
You know what I'm saying? So make good choices. Make good choices. Do not allow people to put you in a place where you can't come out. You have to think for yourself. And that's one thing I see that young people, even when I was young, we don't do. We let everybody think for us. And I mean, they let 17-year-olds want to think for 17-year-olds. Well, I've been here like 2 times, maybe a time and a half, more than you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a time and a half, a little bit longer than you have. So why in the world would you listen to somebody that's been here the same amount of time as you and not listen to someone that's already walked that way, ran that way? You know what I'm saying? So listen to your parents.
Can I say
Go ahead.
something? As a parent, I can speak to that because we say think for yourself, but we have to also, and I'm speaking to parents, we have a responsibility to allow that to start at home. How often do we say, well, do what I told you to do? And it's like, well, they disagree with what we told them to do. But we train them not just at home, but even in school, do what I say. So now a culture of children have been created to do only what's instructed. So if the instructor is the child that has the most influence, then they saying, okay, do what I say. This is already in my head. You do what they say. You do what your parents say. You do what the teacher say. Now they over me now as a child. I'm going to do what they say. But if we begin at home to say, okay, this is what I think you should do, but these are the options that are presented before you. And we give them an opportunity to start thinking independently. To me, that starts and fuels a child like my own. And I can say this because my child is away. But she calls me and she says, you know, Mom, today I had the opportunity to drink and I just did not do it. She said, you know, I thought about it and I almost did it. She was like, but I thought about what could happen. She said, I was in the room and they were smoking. And she said, you know, I told them I got to go. And, you know, the room ended up getting busted and that was her thing.
Right.
This could happen. But I gave her the allowance to think as her own person, as a child. Yes, I had rules and I had structure, but I gave a space to think of your own. I say, okay, this is what it is, but tell me what you think. Because if you never have the opportunity to think on your own, it's hard when you get amongst your peers. Or am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Not only that, when you were talking, because your daughter is away at college, mothers, fathers, really talk to your children when they are away, because they have something now, when young girls are drinking, they can be
Right.
exactly.
Yes. And that is
Taken
happening.
people take total advantage of young women, you know, that go out and they drink, and we're seeing more and more of that in college because you got a young child, never been away from home, not accustomed to having all this unlimited freedom, and now you trying everything out, but that cannot end well for you.
Nope.
So you have to really, really, really make good choices, especially when you're leaving and going to college. And that's for the young men too, because if they get caught up in doing something and it's not, you know, you can say it was consensual, whatever, then you can spend the rest of your life on paper or in prison or whatever. So those things have some horrible, horrific ramifications. If you do not make good choices, it can really catch up with you. Am I right, officer? Go ahead, Jay.
And all I wanted to say was, like, people were always going to make mistakes. Like, are you going to learn from those mistakes and keep doing what you have to do?
Woo, that's good.
Yes.
That's really good. And that's a 17-year-old. That's a 17-year-old nephew saying that.
Yeah.
So anybody else have anything else they want to say?
I just think that as parents, we need to start, of course, we need a culture of care, and I think we need to give our children a little bit of leeway. If you start now while he's in high school, I know you get the option to go out, do stuff. If you start now, when you get to college, you won't think, well, oh, I never had this before, and it won't be new. Introduce things slowly so that when they get on their own, it's not just this whole new world that I never got a chance to explore. Give them a bit of freedom now with boundaries
Of course.
so that the world won't be this whole thing that you think you need to do this because TV makes it beautiful. And in real life, I'm not encouraging you to let your child drink. But if they drink in high school because they went to a party and they woke up the next day vomiting, headaches, chances are when they get to college, that's not going to be something they want to do when everybody else doing it because they will have experienced it and understand this ain't the life that I want, you know?
Please don't let that be the life. I grew up in a household where there was alcoholics, and that's really, and I look back, I'm sure, I don't know when it started in that individual's life, but it probably started when he was like in his teens, because you don't wake up at 30 and start drinking. Well, I guess you can.
could.
But yeah, you can.
I
But
was
most
28
often,
when I took my first drink.
but I mean, to begin to be an alcoholic, usually it starts in the teenage years. Believe it or not, people start experimenting, and the next thing, I hear people all the time say, "How did I get here?" Well, you got here because you did something to get here. You started doing something, and it became a habit. It takes like 21 days to break a habit, and really 21 days to start a habit.
Yes.
So it becomes a habit, but after a while, guess what? That thing that brought you pleasure, the synthetic weed, it was pleasurable, gave you that feeling of being elated and the euphoria. Guess what? Then you became enslaved to it. So now the thing that brings us pleasure becomes our master.
Pain.
And I don't want to be mastered over something, especially if I have to steal to get it.
Yes.
Take out of my mother's purse. Sell my stuff, as ICJ said, getting rid of my cars, doing all this crazy stuff because this thing that once brought me pleasure, even when I was 16 and now I'm 24, I'm 30, has now enslaved me, and it's my master. So be very, very cautious. Parents, mama, you gotta know. Start digging and looking and checking out. There's a reason that people are going on Facebook and luring children and bringing them to a place and molesting them. That's because nobody thought to check out the Facebook page.
Yes.
Or the Instagram. Children are curious and they do things and they're vulnerable. And so they have people, you can speak to that, right, Sergeant? There are people that are predators and they will check out the stuff. Don't be afraid. You pay the bills. I've never seen people, I'm giving Johnny his space. Johnny don't get no space up in here. Space?
Balance.
No.
Balance.
We're gonna see what's going on because I am responsible for my child's well-being. And children are children. That's why they're called children.
Yes.
Because their brains are not completely formatted. Okay? And they don't think, the way I think at, a little bit older than 21 is totally different than the way I thought when I was 15.
Yes.
So we have to help them make good choices. Just allow them to think for themselves, but help them make good choices. Y'all want to say anything? Because he's going to take us out, my celebrity, ICJ, and tell them where you're going to be this Friday.
This Friday I'll be in the Southwest area, Sugarland, the Reflections. I don't know exactly the address, but it's on my Facebook page. I can.
Tell me how to get your Facebook.
Icy John. That's my Facebook name. I can't put ICJ. That's why it's.
Okay, so it's Icy. That's why.
That's why she calls me Icy John all the time.
Because I'm always on his Facebook and hitting him up on the Facebook, and we responding to one another. I don't know where I get all these sweet cupcake babies, but I love him like crazy. He's been just really out there, and I'm serious. I listened to your music today. And it was banging. I'm like in the house doing, just set me free. That kind of stuff. And so, come on, tell us what you're gonna sing for us. You're releasing that here, right?
Yes, the drinking
wow,
and driving.
This is the first time we get to release. Tell them
Yes.
about it.
this song, this is the one I was talking about, the drinking and driving one, the one with the kid that he's driving and then he ends up in jail the first time. And the second verse is talking about where he comes out drinking and driving, he's hanging out with this girl, and he crashes and he dies.
Jesus. Come on. Come
Yes,
on,
sir.
bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm falling,
You can get it, bro.
kind of nervous.
Don't be nervous. You got this.
Even lie. The Lord set me free without him what denied.
Wrong one.
You ready?
Ephesians 5:18. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. Amen. Drinking and driving, it's a serious thing. Drinking and driving, it's a dangerous game. Drinking and driving, please try and maintain. Drinking and driving will cause mama pain. 'Cause I don't know what anybody been through, but Jesus knows it all and he loves you. Don't tell me that you're drinking, no, that ain't cool. And Satan is a lie, no, he ain't true. Drinking and driving, I said, what a combination. Kids, they amuse without a sensation. And driving no limit without a destination. Dangerous situation, so I'm praying for salvation. Asking what my Lord for a full restoration. I am just a rapper, can I be y'all's inspiration? I'm here for motivation, no more time wasted. You got temptation with the next generation, huh? You left without permission. Do you feel conviction when out there drinking? Scary transition, a really bad position. 'Cause just last night you chose the wrong decision. Next thing you know, you driving blurred vision, but you won't listen like a deaf politician. Next thing you know, your mom's pay you a visit. Up in that jail, cause me alcohol addiction. Drinking and driving, it's a serious thing. Drinking and driving, it's a dangerous game. Drinking and driving, please try and maintain. Drinking and driving will cause mama pain. 'Cause I don't know anybody been through, but Jesus knows it all and he loves you. Don't tell me that you're drinking, no, that ain't cool. And Satan is a lie, no, he ain't true. Driving down the road with a bottle of gin, doing it again, you forget about the sin. You started this morning by the 10:15. You drove a little further, you decided to take a sip. Looking for a cop while you put it to your lips. Proceeded with the trip, but boy, you done flip. You hit the play button, you was riding with a dip. Next thing you know, you swinging on the whip. Turn the stereo loud as that it go. Draw with one hand, you showing off your bow. The business seemed cold, but once you have been told, don't drink and drive, no, you should've never drove. Now your soul descending like you do. Family left in pain and all they seep is hope. But it's just wrong, you didn't make it home. A car hits you head on, and now you're dead and gone. Drinking and driving.
Come on, y'all. All right. Awesome, 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 awesome. Give it up for him, y'all. ICJ! And
that
we
was
got the
good,
first
no
release.
cap.
We got the first release. That was awesome. That was awesome. Come on.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Because he turned his life around. That's
Yes.
number one. Come on.
I haven't practiced the song, so that's why I kind of.
No, you are fine.
That was
Stand down. You get
That was
come
really
on,
good,
come out.
for
Give it
real.
up
Did
for
you
you.
hear Jay?
Oh my
That was
God.
really good. I
That
like
was
that.
really good. So you got a teenager's attention. That was really good.
I'm finna
So
add
that
that to
is
my
it for
playlist.
us, you guys. Give it up for our guest, our man in blue. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sergeant Fleming, who, and I'm gonna go ahead on and tell y'all, I have my fam on tonight. This is my brother-in-law. And my nephew. So I am so honored. I appreciate them so much for coming, and it's been amazing. So next week, join us next week. It's gonna really be amazing next week as well. We're gonna be talking about My Mother's Madness. We have an awesome guest, Michelle Rice. She'll be with us, and we are going to dig deep on next week, ladies. So don't forget. Love you. See you next week.
Thank you.